Welcome to Life with Long COVID with me, Paul Clark. It's estimated that around 400 million people are suffering from the effects of what is now called long COVID globally. There are probably many more people suffering but not able to articulate what is wrong with them. This podcast was started for one reason and one reason only: that those suffering will not feel like they're on their own. Welcome to Life with Long COVID. My name is Paul, and I want to thank you for listening to this episode. What you won't know is that this is about the sixth version of this introduction, because I'm having a bit of a brain fog day, and you will probably know that feeling if you've tuned in. So, this is just what it is. It's what life is like living with long COVID. That's what the podcast is all about. So if I pause, if I go off script, and it all doesn't make any sense just for a second, then I'm sure you'll forgive me, rather than having to keep going back and recording it again and again. Today, I want to talk about hope, about rebuilding a future with a chronic illness that you can't plan ahead for. Because this has been on my mind a lot recently. My COVID started in December 2021, and I've had long COVID really effectively since the January 22. And I've been living with this for some time, going through like a roller coaster of emotions ever since. But more recently, I've begun to think about the future and hope and rebuilding a life based around uncertainty. Let me back up for a minute. I used to be the organiser. I used to be the planner, both in my family and professionally. I absolutely loved to-do lists. I loved colour coding things. I loved my online calendars, and I would create them as well, just for fun. I'd have different calendars for different things. I would be fairly spontaneous, but I would always plan it in and take great pleasure in dotting my I's and crossing my T's and making sure all the details are taken care of. Since I've had long COVID, I've learnt that chronic illness does not care about your plans whatsoever. And the symptoms that we get, the foggy brain, the lack of any energy, and the unpredictability of them, mean that it's really, really tough now to plan anything. Now, I'm not able to work anymore, so that's taken that one out of the picture, I guess. But I still used to be the family organiser. You know, there's always one in every family who organises. If there's two or more, then that often becomes conflict. In my family, it's often been me that's said, not suggested what we do, but certainly take on the planning of it, because I enjoy it. I love it. That is now really difficult, even in the absence of work. And it doesn't have to be anything big, like a day out. Like meeting a friend for a coffee is fraught with danger, because I may not be well enough to go when it gets to the day, and I have to make sure that they're aware of that and not too offended if I can't turn up. And it just becomes really difficult to do it, to the point where, you know, I'm guilty of not putting those things in the diary because it's such a stress to do it. And you end up missing out on friends and relationships that you would have had before. So I'm going to share today where I am in this kind of process. Like, I'm nowhere near. I can't tell you that I'm at the end where everything's fantastic and I'm happy with it all. But I can at least very honestly let you know where I'm at. With chronic illness and the unpredictability of when you're going to have a good day or a bad day, and when it can turn bad, like literally I can get up in the morning and I can feel really okay, and I think, oh, you know what, today's going to be a day I feel like I've got a bit of energy, but then by 10 o'clock I can be wiped out. And it's probably usually because I've got a bit of energy and I think, right, I've got to do this and that and something else, and I use it all up to start with. It probably is that. But it's unpredictable, right? You just never know. It's a bit like, I'm looking out the window at the moment here in the UK, and it's absolutely lashing down with rain, right? It's horrible. The only people I keep seeing is the occasional wet, sodden dog walker looking very miserable. And British weather's quite unpredictable, you know. It's a bit like planning an outdoor expedition in the UK, because you never know what the British weather's going to do. You can prepare for it, but you probably might have to end up cancelling it. And even if they, if they forecast sunshine, there's no guarantee that you won't get a downpour by the time that the time comes to actually do something. It's a bit like that, really. It's a bit like the British weather. There you go. Chronic illness is a bit like the British weather. And if you don't live in the United Kingdom, I apologise, because that analogy is not going to go very far. But you know what I mean. With that practical side of not being able to organise anything, there's the emotional side. And that's where it hurts the most. Feeling unreliable. Feeling like everything is out of control. Often I feel like I'm being left behind when everybody else is moving forward with things. And those days are hard. And those days often all those things hit me at once. The only thing I can be spontaneous at the moment is my rest. It's like I can have a spontaneous rest day any time. But the emotional side really does affect me. But I have moved on. I don't sit around feeling guilty or unreliable, and I don't lament being out of control now as much as I did. I'm not saying that I never feel those things, because I still do, clearly. But I don't feel them as much as I did. And unusually for me, I want to share with you some ways that I've adapted my mindset from, I guess you would say it's from planning to pacing. From planning to pacing. The biggest thing I had to do is to accept my lot. And what I mean by that is to accept that I've got a chronic illness, to accept that that is not in any way predictable, and to accept that it might not change. The last bit's the bit that really hurts and took me ages to come to terms with. Maybe I'm probably not all the way there yet, but I'm certainly further along than I was before. Because until I could come to terms with the fact that this is me and this might not change, I didn't feel like I could move forward. Because moving forward and planning around that was like admitting defeat. It was like saying, I can't accept it. If I start moving forward, then it's like accepting that things are never going to get better. Now, you don't have to look out bleakly and say, well, nothing's ever going to get better, because clearly it might do. They might turn around and come up with something that will really help those of us with long COVID or ME or CFS. You know, the condition might improve. It has for some people. But I had to get to the stage where I could accept the fact that it might not. And that was a really important part for me. And it happened gradually over a couple of years, rather than me just waking up one morning going, right, that's it, I'm going to move on with my life. And as I say, happens in varying degrees. I'm not 100% sold on it, but I'm a lot more sold on it than I was before. So that was really important to me. Once I got to that stage, I suddenly began to be able to live one day at a time, and sometimes an hour at a time. As I said before, I love making plans. I love to think I know what I'm doing tomorrow or the next day, and that's where chronic illness really kicks you. But now I've changed. I've managed to change my mindset so that I can't tell you what I'm going to do this afternoon. The very likelihood is after this podcast I'm going to need to rest. but I haven't planned to have a rest. Do you know what I mean? I just don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I've got 1 or 2 appointments in the diary. I don't know if I'll be able to do them or not, and that's okay. So living one day at a time, living an hour at a time, is something I've had to come to terms with, and actually now I kind of embrace it. It's a different way of living. And as I say, it's meant that I have to let go of the things that I can't control. Let go of that mindset that says I must plan, I must control, I must know what I'm doing. I still keep to-do lists, but it's a different kind of to-do list. It's on my computer, and I don't sit tightly to it. It's like a rolling list of things which I could do if I've got some energy, and they're in no particular priority order. So what I'll do is, if I've got a little bit of energy and I think I want to do something, I won't rush off and try and get the whole list done. I won't rush off and do anything. I'll look at it first, and I'll think, how much energy have I got, and what can I do within that energy? And my to-do list can be anything from a bigger task to something simple like loading the dishwasher. It can be anything, tiny to big. So I can pick something really small if I know I've only got a little bit of energy, or I can pick something a bit more meaty if I think that I can handle it. That's been a revelation for me. And coming to terms with the fact that that list will never be empty. It's a rolling list. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be stuff on it. There's always going to be stuff I can't do, and that's fine. But actually for me, knowing it's on that list takes some of the worry out of it. I know it's there. I know I can do it when I get the energy, and that's enough for me. My general aim is maybe to do something on that list, however tiny or big it is, once a day. And most days I achieve that. I have emptied the dishwasher today. That was my thing on the list. And I feel satisfied. Now, if you'd have asked Paul a few years ago, is your life goal going to be emptying the dishwasher tomorrow? I would have laughed at you. But now, this is the way I'm living, and I'm happy with that. I'm absolutely happy with that. I've achieved one of those things on the list, because it's easy to say, like, I'm not worrying about lists anymore, I'm not worried about achieving anything more, but that's who I am, right? And although I can reprogram my mind to let go of things I can't control, I still have to have something there that gives me some satisfaction at the end of the day that I've managed to achieve something, even if it's something tiny. And that's my tiny thing today, emptying the dishwasher or loading the dishwasher. If I'm really racy, I'll do both. Sometimes I manage to do more, sometimes less. Sometimes I won't even look at the list because I know I can do nothing on it. But like I say, my general expectation for me is that I'll do one thing on that list, and some of those things are incredibly small. It's a logistical thing, I guess. I don't think of myself as lazy anymore. I went through a period of beating myself up thinking I'm being lazy, which is stupid really, considering the way I feel most of the time. But when you're in that guilt mode, when you're racked with guilt or you're feeling out of control, you start labelling yourself as lazy. Maybe I'm just lazy now. Maybe I need to do more, and guilt tripping yourself into doing things. I don't do that anymore. I've managed to let that go. That was also a big thing, and it came part of the parcel with accepting my condition. So what is success now for me? Success for me now, this is going to sound trite, and I'm trying not to make it sound trite, but it is noticing what's happening in the moment. Like now I'm talking to you, and I'm fully engaged on talking to you. I'm enjoying talking to you. Whereas at one time I would have been thinking, I've got to go out and do this later, and I've got to plan this, and I've got to do that. Now my focus is always 100% on the now. That's been an enormous shift in my life. and it's been rewarding. And I never want to change that anymore. Looking back helps as well. Sometimes Rachel, my wife, will say, you couldn't do that a year ago. And I think, yeah, well, you're right, because it's quite easy to get into the mindset of thinking, I can't do this, I'm never going to do this. But actually, looking back and thinking, Jim, I can do that now and I couldn't do that before. That's success for me. That's a win for me. That gives me a bit of a boost and think, well, this illness is not static. Chronic illness doesn't just decline. It can have small improvements and it can have improvements as well. It's in flux all the time. And I think sometimes when we've got these illnesses, we just focus on the negative. But I really appreciate that when Rachel points it out, and I appreciate when I notice it as well. And I think, yeah, no, I wouldn't have been able to do that before. And the hope is that I can continue to do this, to rebuild my life, keeping the strands that I've learnt, like living in the moment, like setting light to jobs to do and competing priorities, like letting go of feeling lazy and of being unreliable, of learning to be okay with being slightly out of control, and to be able to integrate that into this new life that I'm still in the middle of building at the moment. It will not look like anything like it looked before. And that, for me now, is okay. Like, occasionally I'll still do it. Occasionally I'll still think, oh, I'm going to go back and do what I did before, or I know I can't. Like, I just get these pangs, because that's what happens when you're in the middle of chaos, right? You want to go back to what was familiar. But the further I go down this path of rebuilding for the future, the more normal this future is becoming, and the less I'm doing that. I hope this makes sense. I don't know. Apologies if it isn't. Hopefully something will resonate with you anyway. For the time being, I'm going to keep looking out for those flashes of joy or normality. And I'm going to continue to do these podcast episodes. I'm going to continue writing and build whatever life this is that I'm building. Because chronic illness might have robbed me from what I had before. And it might have robbed me of my mobility and my energy and the ability to think straight. But it's not going to rob me making a better life, and of learning some of the lessons that it's brought me and using those for good, and to bring hope for this whole process. So my question to you is, where are you on this kind of enormous scale? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it depends what day it is, doesn't it, really? Because we can go through, like, our mental health can fluctuate as well, and I've spoken about that before. But how are you on this process? Where are you? Like, if somebody was to say to me a couple of years ago what I've just said to you, I would have been maybe cross with them, because I'd have thought, well, good for you, but I don't feel anything like that. And I'd have thought, well, how comes they've got it all sorted out? I'll tell you, I haven't got it all sorted out. I'm just at a different stage of this process than you, and that's fine. Like, we all, it's not a linear thing as well. You can go backwards, you can go forwards, you can go 6 steps backwards and 2 steps forward, and it just, sometimes you're more forward than backwards. It just is what it is, and we have to make our own way and navigate our chronic illness in the best way possible. But I'll leave you with this. If you're living with chronic illness, if it's long COVID or any chronic condition, I can absolutely guarantee you that you're doing better than you think you are. Like, I know what survival is like. I know that living some days, you're just hanging in there, surviving, getting through the day in the hope that tomorrow's better. Even that's rebuilding. That is necessary in the process of rebuilding your life and bringing some order and future to the things you're doing. We tend to get bogged down by it, but you're doing better than you think you are. you are immeasurably probably thinking differently, reacting differently. You've got a different outlook on life than you had before. And of course, in many ways, it won't be as good, but in some ways, it will be better. I hope some of that has resonated with you and it hasn't come out completely gobbledygook. It's always great to hear from you. If you go to www.lifealongcovid.co.uk, you can subscribe. I say that all the time, I know. You can choose to donate towards the cost of the podcast if you would like, but you don't have to, because you get exactly the same experience just by putting your email address in, and you can get notification of these podcast episodes and anything else I publish as well. But the main thing is, we've got a little community. You can chat with each other, you can comment on these podcast episode posts or my written posts, and we can talk about what it is like to live with long COVID. And that is really what this is all about. It's about feeling like we're not alone, because you're not. So until next time, take care, and we'll see each other again soon.